Calaroga Shark Media.
Hey there, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news, a daily briefing on stand-up comedy, comedians, and the comedy industry. Now, I did tape this one Friday. It's 11:49 a.m. on Friday. There is no information about who is performing at the Kevin Hart roast, which is tonight. I've checked the Netflix page. I've checked Kevin Hart's Instagram. There is nothing. So I'm going to wildly speculate here. Might we see some of the following people? The Rock? I can see The Rock coming by and crushing. Could we see Eddie Murphy? Is that possible? Chappelle? Chris Rock? Right? I think Chris Rock, if Chris Rock did the Funny AF show, I think Chris Rock is possible. Jamie Foxx? Nikki Glaser said she wasn't going to do it. So, all right, that's on tonight. Johnny Mac will stay up late and cover that on Monday's program. Deadline asked the Netflix executives, how did you land on Kevin Hart as your roast subject? Tracy Pacosta from Netflix said, look, Kevin is somebody who we clearly love at Netflix. He's been part of the Netflix family for a long time, and it just felt right and fun and different to have Kevin be roasted this year at the festival. Robbie Pra, who heads Netflix comedy, said at a certain point when we were thinking about it, we were just like, okay, we have this comedy festival. Every single comedian is doing it. And listen, of course, we've had other ideas and other conversations over the last year, but when it came to it, when we finally had to make the final decision, we were like, which comedian can we ask? Kevin was the first person on our list on that front, and we were lucky that he said yes, and they're just pairing that with Shane Gillis. We're starting to look at some of the scripts, and I think it's magic. And the people doing the roast, it's also going to be phenomenal. It's also going to be a really special day. Let me just chime in again as my brain is just thinking about the list. Like, I haven't even seen that Jeff Ross is attached to this, or Tony Hinchcliffe. They have to be, right? I'm not sure why they're going for the mystery. The other explanation would be that they don't have confidence in the event, so they're not drawing attention to it. We'll know in a couple hours. Deadline talked about Funny AF. Robbie Pra said, as somebody who came from the Just for Laughs festival, that's the sort of the world I lived in, watching this show work and these comedians having an opportunity. You're right. It's very difficult in that landscape for that to happen. And quite frankly, back to your first question of why Kevin Hart, it's because he's singular in that way. He came to us and was like, I want to do a show that gives comedians this opportunity. And even as you see the way that we approach the roast, it's very stand-up forward as well. Pacosta said, I agree when you say the discovery piece has been missing, giving the audience the opportunity to discover somebody, get super passionate about them, and watch that grow over time. When I watched Kevin on that show, you could sense the passion for it and how much he loves it, and I do think it's contagious, even for people that might not think they like watching that type of show. As I've said all week, I thought that was a very good version of such a show. The winner was Ron Taylor, who did a lengthy interview with Vulture. How do you feel, Ron Taylor? Ron told them, I don't know, the dust hasn't settled at all, but I can tell you how it feels right now, and it's pretty amazing. I didn't think it'd be as validating as it's been, especially being able to do the competition, then leave and go to the festival and be at the Comedy Store surrounded by a bunch of friends. Everyone's like, oh man, I always knew, and I'm like, that's crazy, because I didn't. The whole competition was very competitive. If this was a race, I stumbled quite a few times, and I was shocked when I recovered. Losing, not doing well, not getting the trophy, I'm used to that. Everybody's used to that. Winning was the part that I wasn't used to. I had planned for everything except winning. Good question. Have you seen your social media blow up because of the show? Definitely. When the show first aired on Netflix, everybody in the competition's followers went up. And the longer you were in the competition, the more your followers continue to go up. I've had people I've followed for years, I'm a big fan of, reach out and chop it up with me like we've known each other forever. They're like, oh man, I've been a fan of your work. And I'm like, really? I didn't know you knew who I was. Good question. Were you trying to save your best material for later rounds, or did you think you had to do your best stuff at every step? I'm going to guess the latter. I haven't read this ahead. Ron Taylor said, I feel like there were some people who blew out their best stuff early on, and there were some people who held on to some stuff. I guess I fell more into the camp of holding on to stuff, but that wasn't my strategy. All right, I was wrong. I travel a lot, and I'm normally doing 60 minutes, so the time constraint of having 5 minutes made it hard to squeeze everything in. There were 2 times in the competition where I planned out 3 jokes, and I was like, that should be about 5 minutes, but I didn't get to my 3rd joke, which was my closer. But when that happened and I moved on, I still had that joke. So coming into the semifinals and finals, I had these 2 great closures that I've actually meant to do already. So I would have been the person to blow their best stuff early in the competition were it not for my poor time management skills. Deadline did a good job on this interview. Next question, did you approach your sets differently during the semifinals and finals, knowing the public would be voting live? That is really smart. Ron Taylor said, I did actually. Throughout the whole competition, we had appealed to the judges who'd been doing comedy forever. This is so smart. They were judging stuff like your approach, your confidence, your originality, how much they learned about you, but the people don't care about any of that. They just want to laugh. See my previous comments about comedy snobbery. Taylor said, we saw whoever got the most laughs seemed to be the people who moved forward to the finals. So coming in the finals, I went, all right, I'm just doing the funniest stuff I've got. It might be dirty, it might be nasty, it might be low-hanging fruit, and some of it is. But my job is to take low-hanging fruit and put a smart twist on it. I was like, I'm just going to say the wildest stuff I can. Which was the hardest round? The roast, by far. I agree with that as a viewer, because it was the only one for practical purposes that wasn't stand-up. Another great question. Considering how much of your material you used on the show, do you have an hour ready to film, or do you need to go work on it now? Great question. Great. Ron Taylor said, I definitely have to go work on it now, but that was part of the package of winning. I talked to Kevin after the show, and he said, I'm going to give you the opportunity to get on the road and get as many shots as you can in the gym so you can work this hour out in a way you couldn't before the competition. So I'll have the space and ability to create the best hour I can now. Even if I did an hour that was ready, I wouldn't want to just turn around and throw it out there. I want to take the time to build this up the right way. Angela Johnson's special is out today. It's called Ugly Baby. The LA Times asked Angela, who's the ugliest baby you've ever seen? She said, I could tell you, a face popped into my head, but I'm not going to say it. I mentioned it in the show, too, and every time I do the joke, I could see people in the audience got upset, and you see faces shift. You see people get uncomfortable. It's like you're not supposed to say certain things, and it's not even that bad a thing to say. Some babies are ugly. She talked about joking with her family, and does she ever run material by her family? She says, I'll try it first to see how I feel in my body doing said jokes, and if I start to feel a little guilty, then I'll run it by them like, hey, I'm doing this joke about the one time you did this, and are you okay with it? Sometimes they're like, yeah, say whatever, and it's a green light. I actually can't think of a time when anybody has said no. Usually my family's like, do it, that's funny. I will say in this hour, I do a whole piece on my mother-in-law, and I've talked about my mother-in-law in past specials. She loves it, she laughs. She'll even leave comments on the video, but if for some reason I'm nervous about this one, I think if she's getting older and maybe a little more sensitive, I don't want her to think I'm making fun of her, because I'm definitely not. I'm just highlighting her little isms. Congratulations to Sinbad, who has returned to comedy for the first time since his stroke in 2020. Sinbad did a show at the Comedy Ice House on April 29th. He has another show tonight. On social media, Sinbad explained, I can't walk. Since the stroke in 2020, I haven't been on stage. It's just the beginning of me coming back. I'm so looking forward to these shows. I got so much to talk about. I'm going to be talking more trash than I ever did. His daughter is opening for him, and he's excited for that because she talks more trash than I talk.
Gossip Corner, whispers in the street. Gossip Corner, probably about Pete. Gossip Corner, where the rumors meet with Johnny Mac. It's always a treat.
There's a website called Naughty But Nice that I'm familiar with for my work on the Royal Family podcast Palace Intrigue. And they get a little out there, but this caught my eye. They wrote, Naughty But Nice wrote, Jimmy Fallon's strange Miami Grand Prix weekend had insiders whispering the same question, what was really going on? Naughty But Nice writes, yes, the moment caught on camera, Fallon biting the foam cover off Martin Brundle's microphone during a chaotic Formula One grid walk was bizarre enough, but according to sources on the ground, that awkward viral clip was hardly the full story. Insiders tell Naughty But Nice the late-night host had been acting off all weekend, erratic, late, usually tense, and increasingly difficult behind the scenes. An insider said, it wasn't just the mic incident. There was the moment everyone saw, but all weekend Jimmy was acting strangely. He was off his game, running late, distracted, jumpy, and hard to manage. Another source said, people laugh because it looked like classic Jimmy clowning around, but behind the scenes, people weren't laughing. Something felt off. One minute he was charming and switched on, the next he was scattered and impossible. It made everyone uneasy. I quote-unquote worked with Jimmy Fallon a few times back in the day. He'd come up and do Brewer Show and maybe some solo stuff too. It was always good. And have I shared this before? Maybe I have. It's been a long time. So at one point, someone, use your imagination, someone was sending me clips from Jimmy Fallon's 12:30 show and saying, go ahead and play them on the Sirius channel. And I would get these clips from someone, and I don't know, I'd put them on a flash drive or something and tell my guys, you can play this once during the live show, and I would never enter it in the computer. And I was totally confident that nobody from the 12:30 show was going to ask me why we were playing clips from the 12:30 show because of the source, because someone was sending them to me directly. Anyway, I've worked with Jimmy Fallon a few times and always enjoyed him. At the Netflix is a Joke Comedy Festival tonight, 5 o'clock LA time, 8 o'clock live on Netflix. It is the Roast of Kevin Hart, hosted by Shane Gillis. Who's performing? Who knows? I guess who's not performing is Nate Bargatze, because he's performing at the Intuit Dome at the exact same time. Meanwhile, at 8 West at the Greek Theater, it's the Flight of the Conchords. Oh yeah, today's the big Marcelo Hernandez show. He is headlining the biggest Spanish-language comedy show ever to grace the Hollywood Bowl. The LA Times asked Marcello, How do you think your family influenced your sense of humor? Marcelo Hernandez, who in my opinion does one thing well, says, I think you got to be funny if your parents are divorced. My parents getting divorced made me grow into an adult quicker. All my friends of divorced parents have a funny thing about them, because what's more childish than being like, I can't be with you anymore? I'd call my dad like a grown-up, pick me up at 7, we'll have dinner, and then you'll return me to my home because I have school in the morning. Marcello, do you ever consult your family before writing jokes? He said, I think I did my time. I earned the ability to say this stuff. We're always together. I would never want to make my family look bad for a laugh. I don't think that's a smart way to play it. My mom has always gone to my shows and been like, what's he going to say now? We have a great relationship. Something I love about immigrant families is that we have a pretty good sense of humor. We don't take ourselves too seriously because some parts of life are very serious. Skipping ahead, Marcello said, I've met a lot of famous people who are really successful, but also super nice, generous, and caring, and inspires you to be better. The LA Times were like, who are those people for you? Marcelo Hernandez said, Pedro Pascal has been a life changer in many ways with that first sketch we did on SNL. I think Kenan Thompson was always so unreasonably helpful with me in the early days. Colin Jost was always really nice to me. Ego Nwodim was like a big sister to me on the show. Kevin Hart also had big brother energy with me. And as the Netflix is a Joke Comedy Festival wraps up, you can go see Marcelo Hernandez at the Hollywood Bowl at 7, Kevin Hart roast at 5, Nate Bargatze at 5, Flight of the Conchords at 8, and those are all the shows tonight. No smaller shows as the festival wraps up. And that is your comedy news for today. Johnny Mac has to stay up late. But I will tell you, Johnny Mac's going to record Monday's episode with everything but the Kevin Hart stuff, because I don't like to stay up too late. Nick's at 3:30 today. Oh, and happy Mother's Day, everybody. See you tomorrow.